Ladies and gentlemen, in the past couple of days, we have seen major developments in the Trump Electoral College strategy, lawsuits, etc. The Kraken has been released. The long-awaited legal challenge by attorney Sidney Powell has dropped. There are two Krakens, in fact, and potentially more on the way. It's a lawsuit in Georgia and a lawsuit in Michigan, and I am not entirely confident these are going to go anywhere. That people are mocking and ridiculing the legal filings because they're laden with typos, and it seems like Sidney Powell's space bar is broken. However, there has been some weird goings on. Twitter actually banned Sidney Powell's site and then said, oopsie. Now, when this happens, you try and share the link on Twitter, you get a warning saying, go back, don't go to this site. This led many Trump supporters say, we are over the target. Now, as for the legal filings and their merit, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to pretend to know, whether or not this will fly in court, except, listen, the remedy in these lawsuits is to declare Donald Trump the winner. And just based off that, I'm like, come on, I really doubt you're going to go into court and you're going to be like, I am alleging massive fraud. Here's evidence. And there's some legit evidence. But in the filing, you need stronger citation, stronger sources. It's brutal, and it is kind of messed up. That's very, very hard to get these challenges through. I just got to say, I imagine based on my normalcy bias, do we really think outrageous and extreme things are going to happen? I'm going to say probably not. I imagine that, look, there's a lot of left-wing pundits, a lot of anti-Trump pundits that are saying, for this, that, and this reason, these lawsuits are going to get thrown out in a motion to dismiss. But we are seeing, we are seeing the weird and typical things so Dominion Voting Systems is named in the lawsuit in Georgia, and Sidney Powell alleges that they were flipping votes for Joe Biden, and there's a grand conspiracy. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. Literally, these systems were designed for flipping the vote and then hiding the results so that you can't audit them and figure out what's going on. So Dominion comes out and they're like, help, we're being harassed. And I'm like, that's not an argument. Sure, they say it's a meritless and baseless conspiracy theory. That's also not really an argument. I guess the problem is if someone comes at you with silly allegations or they're taking clips of you out of context, what do? Becomes very difficult to disprove an onslaught of fake bits being pushed out by people. And so what would Dominion ultimately do? I guess they're actually going to have to. And there was a left-wing personality on Twitter saying Dominion's going to have to put out a point-by-point refutation of this because the lawsuit does claim to have witnesses, people who are involved with Dominion voting systems, saying they've witnessed these things. So it's not something they can just say it's a baseless conspiracy, though the media is certainly trying really hard to do it. My friends, there are two universes. There are two. In one universe, in the staunch Trump supporter universe, Trump is playing everything masterfully, and no one can stop what is about to come. You see, the typos in the Sidney Powell lawsuits, that was on purpose. Oh, yeah? You want to know why? Because it tricked the media into actually reporting on them. But they're reporting on them with or without the typos anyway, so I don't buy it. I mean, look, man, the simple solution is not that Sidney Powell loaded up typos in this document to try and trick journalists. It just seems like her space bar broke. I mean, that's really what it is. There are some typos. They're just typos. They say it's rife with spelling errors. I'm like, someone hit the wrong button. It happens. So maybe it was hastily typed out and no one proofread it. Because they're apparently huge sentences with no spacing. So it's every word is just next to the next word. No idea why that is. Spacebar broke. Nobody proofread the document before filing it. I imagine you might get a judge being like, what is this? And it might prejudice them or something. I don't know. But I'm not expecting a judge to look at this and say, wow, I'm going to overturn the results for to Donald Trump. Joe Biden clearly didn't win. Listen. We got some more evidence, okay? They had the hearing in Pennsylvania, and we had an Army, I believe it was a Navy veteran, actually, who's saying that there's missing USB cards. And this whole thing, to me, has just been very, very weird. Why hold a hearing at a Wyndham hotel? It feels like they're kind of just placating the right. And maybe that's what the Republican Party is all about. I mean, think about it. Can you tell me what the Republican Party does? Well, I know. They appointed over 200 federal judges, 3 Supreme Court justices. That's making a lot of Republicans really, really happy. I get it. But what about legislation? What about censorship that is eroding and destroying the Trump supporting base, the conservative base, and even the anti-war left? Nothing to see there. They haven't done anything. To be completely honest, I talk to a lot of people, especially on like the IRL podcast, and everyone's just like, what do the Republicans do even? Can you criticize them? Is there good? Is there bad? No idea. That being said, if you haven't already, check out youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Subscribe. There's going to be some changes coming to all the channels, but make sure you subscribe to that podcast channel Monday through Friday live at 8 p.m. and then clips up throughout the day. But let's just let's go through what's going on. So I gave you the gist of the news, right? Twitter claims it reversed the ban on a link to Sidney Powell's Georgia election lawsuit. So they banned it, they unbanned it. That's the news there. But here's the Kraken. Well, here's what the Detroit News says about the Kraken. Citing conspiracy theories, Michigan GOP electors ask court to name Trump the winner. A new lawsuit brought by a group of Michigan Republicans asks a federal judge to overturn President-elect Joe Biden's win in the state based on a bevy of conspiracy theories and claims contradicted by election experts. I got to stop right there. You see, therein lies the very, very serious problem with what's going on in these two universes. As I mentioned, go over to the Donald.win and you will become extremely confident Trump is going to somehow win. He is going to literally win. It's all part of the plan and things like that. I mean, but there's a lot of high profile Trump supporters on Twitter saying, nah. Like you can say that Joe Biden didn't win fair and square, but he's winning in terms of the political war. And that's what I've been saying. When I talk about whether or not Donald Trump's going to win, I don't mean in court. I mean political warfare. And Joe Biden figured it out. I believe the biggest and most powerful thing the Democrats did was mail-in voting, giving themselves basically a month to go. And I don't want to say ballot harvest. I'm sure that I would assume there's probably a lot. We've seen the videos from Veritas, and so there's probably ballot harvesting. In fact, I would say definitively from the Veritas videos, we've seen literal ballot harvesting, enough to flip the election away from Trump. I'm not entirely sure, but they don't need to do overt ballot harvesting. They go door to door and say, "Did you vote yet? I want to watch you vote. Do your vote. Okay, bye." And then they don't got to take the vote from you. They can just knock on your door and say, vote, vote, vote. That was a huge advantage for them. So right now, okay, this article says claims contradicted by election experts. That means literally nothing to me and doesn't need to be in that paragraph. Let me give you the actual paragraph. Let me fix this for you. A new lawsuit brought by a group of Michigan Republicans asks a federal judge to overturn President-elect Joe Biden's win in the state, citing what they say are allegations of widespread voter fraud. That's it. There you go. Or I should say, citing allegations of widespread voter fraud. If you want to judge the merits, that's up to you. But they put bevy of conspiracy theories and claims contradicted by experts. What experts, why, who, and what's the point? Okay, I can find you an expert who can tell me that the sky is really green. Just don't trust your eyes. There are a lot of experts say a lot of crazy things. And the left used to talk about this when it came to climate change. They'd be like, well, the big oil companies hire scientists to do research favorable for them. Right, great. So experts aren't necessarily the end all be all. And the same goes for Sidney Powell. She has her own experts in these legal documents citing and saying things. And I'm like, sure, okay. It's expert testimony. It is what it is. Light, very weak circumstantial evidence. They say 6 Republicans, 3 who would be electoral college electors for President Trump, and 3 local GOP officials filed the suit in federal court Wednesday night, 2 days after the Board of State Canvassers certified Biden's 154,000 vote victory in Michigan. Among the attorneys is Sidney Powell, who appeared at a press conference with Trump's legal representatives last week. Since then, however, the Trump campaign has said that Powell is working on her own. Now, I actually heard a reason for this. I've talked about Sidney Powell. They announced she's no longer on the legal team. She confirmed this. And the media said that she was fired because, the media and these journalists, and the Democrats, they're not thinking clearly. They don't think about why this is, okay? And so I had someone say, Trump just pardoned Michael Flynn. Sidney Powell is Michael Flynn's lawyer. Is it possible that they announced she wasn't working for Trump so that they would avoid the negative press of a conflict of interest? Yes. That's the actual simple solution. That really is a simple solution. Trump, if he had Sidney Powell on his legal team and she represented Michael Flynn and then Trump pardoned Michael Flynn, the media would be like, That's a huge conflict. I mean, that is a huge conflict of interest. Now they're not saying anything. They spent so much time making fun of Trump and Sidney Powell that when Trump then pardons Michael Flynn, where's the narrative of a conflict of interest? Well, they already spent too much time making fun of, the issue. So now it's like, I will say, though, I'm looking forward to Trump says that he's going to leave if the electors don't vote for him, he's going to leave. Of course he will. Okay. If that happens, I am looking forward to the end of Twitter. Twitter was a dying platform before Trump. Many of these media companies were, and Trump saved all of them. And you know what? I'm actually kind of mad at Trump about that. I'm not personal. I can't be personally mad at him. It's just funny that it worked out that way. But Twitter is one of the worst things humans have ever done. It has taken long and large, complex ideas and then just whittled down the window for which we view them into a tiny keyhole so we can't even understand them anymore. So now you get endless out of context statements or people being taken out of context. You can tweet a joke and people don't know it's a joke and then they think you're serious. So I just roll with it. I just tweet silly things. And it's funny because these leftists eat it all up and they're like, "Dude, you're so dumb." And I'm like, it's so dumb that you're so dumb. Who cares? Twitter's awful. But man, it's shaping the political landscape for the left, at least. And that is freaky. Okay, so here's the Detroit lawsuit. Okay. Or I'm sorry, the Michigan lawsuit. The Republicans want a court to name Trump the winner. Now we have Trump asks Pennsylvania lawmakers to turn around election results during GOP event in Gettysburg. Trump's lawyers implored Republicans in the Commonwealth to ignore the election results and select a pro-Trump slate of electors instead. Whoa, that is not true. Let me fix this story for you, Market Watch. Trump's lawyers implored Republicans in the Commonwealth to, citing the evidence of widespread voter fraud, vote for Trump instead. So it's not saying ignore the election results. They're quite literally saying take into consideration all the evidence. I'm not saying their evidence is correct and true. I'm not saying they're right, but they're not saying ignore the results, just make Trump the winner. They're saying there's widespread fraud. And if you can take that into consideration, Trump is the rightful winner. That would literally, if you want to get it technical, they're saying take the evidence into consideration and vote accordingly, which would make Trump the winner. That's the argument in these lawsuits. That's the argument from Trump's lawyers. Not ignore it, we win anyway. It's quite literally, here's the evidence of fraud, here's the individuals, here's the statements, here's the affidavits. Take these into consideration when you vote. That would make Trump the winner. I'm not sure that's going to fly in a court. And like I said, normalcy bias, this kind of stuff just doesn't happen. But I tell you, at the same time, we're not living in normal times, to put it mildly. I have no idea what could or would happen. I didn't think a Joe Biden victory would happen. And, I'll tell you this. There's these people putting out clips where it's me saying over and over again, 49 state landslide. And it's like trying to create the impression that I was always convinced that would be the case. First and foremost, 4 hours of content every day. You're definitely going to find a bunch of different clips going back 2 years of me saying how we could get to a 49 state landslide. But a lot of these issues are specifically like if Trump pardons all, like I would say something like this. If Trump pardons all nonviolent drug offenders and then decriminalizes, marijuana, I think we might see a 49 state landslide. And they take that last bit and make it seem like I'm just saying it for no reason. When I'm straight up saying the things that have to come together to make that possible, that's crazy. But it could happen because Trump's kind of a crazy dude, right? Well, Trump didn't do anything like that, and he should have, and maybe it really would have helped him win. And a lot of Trump supporting former liberals were saying, make these moves, Trump. He could have pardoned Edward Snowden and Assange, and that would have been huge. The issue, I suppose, is that Trump wasn't convinced that the left would vote for him, even if he gave them what they wanted. But I still think Trump should have gone the route of decriminalizing, executive order, decriminalizing, pot use. It wouldn't be law. It would just be he could instruct federal agencies to stop investigating, drop all charges, and then he could vow to pardon anybody convicted. And then he could have pardoned not all nonviolent drug offenders because some might plead down, but many of them after some kind of light review. What are you in for? Okay, you're free to go. He did that for, I think, a couple people. He should have done it for way, way more. Maybe more than a couple. Trump did pardon a lot of people, but he could have done it for way, way more people. And these things would have helped him. There's also things I said where, like, if Trump appoints Andrew Yang as an economic advisor and Tulsi Gabbard as national security advisor, considering it was the American conservative that said fire Bolton, hire Tulsi, I think you might see a 49-state landslide. And the other thing you need to consider, too, about a 49-state landslide is that it doesn't mean Trump wins, 150 million votes. The popular vote margins can be the same. If you look at the actual 49-state landslides with Reagan and Nixon, it wasn't like they won, the losing candidates won tens of millions of votes. But you could win, a certain state by a slim margin and then get all the electoral votes. The other thing is, most importantly, though, is that I was saying over and over again that Biden could actually do this. I'm surprised he did, to be completely honest. That caught me off guard. I really didn't believe it. And most leftists didn't believe it either. They were tweeting all the same things. Biden will never win. And you had Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks saying Biden's got dementia and all that stuff. So anyway, I digress. Just go off a little tangent. Right now, you've got Trump's lawyers asking the electors in PA to vote for him. You've got a lawsuit in Georgia and Michigan where they're basically asking the courts to overturn the results. I just can't see that happening. I'm sorry, man. I mean, these hearings are interesting. It increases the probability I would give to a Trump electoral victory in some capacity, or some kind of Trump victory. And I'll tell you, they just fired, the Trump administration ordered the firing of an advisory board, which includes Henry Kissinger over at the Pentagon. And that stuff makes me feel like Trump still is not planning on leaving, because these things would be pointless. Absolutely pointless. If he's going to be leaving in a month, if Joe Biden's being inaugurated, in 2 months. And so Trump says a lot can happen from now until January 20th. What's that supposed to mean? Is there going to be like a Directive 51 overhaul? I don't know, man. But let me tell you, some of the allegations against these elections do cite foreign interference or potential foreign interference. I mean, look, the Sidney Powell thing claims that's like China, Russia, Iran are colluding. And she says that this software was implemented and used in Venezuela, things like that. Trump's got an executive order that gives him pretty substantial powers in the event of foreign election meddling. Maybe the Trump campaign is only just waiting to get to the Supreme Court to drop legitimate, hard allegations. And the fastest way to get to the Supreme Court is to have garbage, flimsy lawsuits. Sure, I guess. But that would sound like you've got political favors in the Supreme Court, which, sure, Trump appointed 3 of these people. Maybe that's the case. Or we're really dealing with a legit political civil war, and that it's not about whether the cases have merit. It's about whether or not the Supreme Court justices will be on Trump's side or on the side of the political establishment. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe Trump appointed 3 people. And so you add that with Alito and Clarence Thomas. And Alito has talked about the threats to democracy and our individual liberties and stuff like that. And maybe what we're really seeing is that there are 5 Supreme Court justices who say the Democrats can't be allowed to expand their un-American, problems. And the point is un-American policies and creating more problems. So the point is it's a political issue. Here's Fox News. PA poll watcher, Navy vet, alleges missing USB cards up to 120,000 questionable votes. At a hearing Wednesday, the poll watcher alleged the cards may have been used to add illegal votes to the state's vote count. Why wasn't this done in an actual legal proceeding? Legit question. I don't know. Maybe there's a real answer. They did it at the Wyndham. Were these people placed under oath? My understanding is that they weren't. I'm not entirely sure. Considering they're not in a... No. To be fair, many of these people signed sworn affidavits under penalty of perjury. So, okay. They're probably legit making these claims. But why not just have a real legal proceeding? Part of me thinks that, look, if you go into the mainstream media world, this is just one big ploy by the Trump campaign to siphon off a couple quick bucks from his remaining supporters before he leaves office. I'm not convinced of that. Sorry, Trump just dropped $3 million on a recount in Wisconsin. They're buying time for something, and these lawsuits are absurd. Maybe they're just trying to get them to the Supreme Court. Now, the reason I'm not so sure about that is Sidney Powell filed her lawsuit on behalf of electors, not the Trump campaign. But maybe that's all that matters. Maybe it goes before electors, and she wants the lawsuits to be absurd and broken, so the judges say, get out of my court, and then she files an appeal and makes her way up. Maybe the Trump campaign doesn't want to get to the Supreme Court right away. Because if you get a Supreme Court victory right now, the Democrats are going to be given a lot of opportunity, a lot of time to challenge and file back. But if they do it right at the deadline, they can put the Democrats in a weakened position where they have no time to respond. Honestly, I don't know. But I will tell you, again, normalcy bias, I don't know why they're doing it. They're probably just trying tooth and nail as hard as possible. They're fighting tooth and nail to try and win by any means necessary. And it seems extremely unlikely. I don't know. Far be it from me to be able to predict the future because as you've heard with all of those clips of me saying 49 state landslide, to be real, I can't predict the future. Like if people come to my channel taking things out of context, ignoring the cultural relevance of that specific moment, like I don't care. By all means, go ahead and do it because I'll tell you what. You know what's going to happen with this video? It's going to be like January 21st with Trump being sworn in. They're going to be like, oh, look how dumb Tim was. He really thought Trump wasn't going to pull this off. Yes, I really think Trump isn't going to pull it off. And I could be wrong about it. You take all the riots, you take the mass, you go back to 2018, you take the Kavanaugh effect, then you take the booming economy, the best numbers of our lives, you take the Moody's Analytics things, and yeah, it was looking really, really good for Donald Trump, and then COVID happened. But then you take all of those riots, you take Fauci saying in March, Trump is doing better than anybody could. And Trump's approval rating during the COVID outbreak was higher in aggregate than at any other time in his presidency. And it stands to reason people were enjoying things. I mean, people were upset about, I should say, people were confident in what Trump was doing. Not everybody. But it's not just that. It's that on the issue of the economy, Trump was always favored. So naturally, there's a lot of questions about what really happened. And because of this, it's why Trump supporters think Trump really did win in a landslide and that it was stolen through fraud and, dirty tricks. I don't think there was a massive landslide. I thought it was possible for a few reasons, but mostly only if there were very, very astronomical hypotheticals like Trump pardoning a bunch of people and things like that. But I think it's fair to point out that while there are many concerns brought up by conservatives, there are simple explanations. I'm not saying definitive. Here's an article from The Federalist, 5 ways Joe Biden magically outperformed election norms. They say 80 million votes. This is actually funny. Check this out. They say Joe Biden got 80 million votes. Biden also shattered Barack Obama's own popular vote totals, really calling into question whether it was not perhaps Biden who pulled Obama across the finish lines in 2008 and 2012. Ha ha ha, we know that's not true. They point out, how did Biden get so many votes? They said, look, there's no enthusiasm for Joe Biden. And I'm like, right, it was all Trump. I was saying this the entire time, going back several months, while the enthusiasm for Trump was ridiculously high and for Biden was really, really low, the anti-Trump enthusiasm was higher than Trump enthusiasm. That was a huge red flag. Of course, when these leftists and haters pull out of context clips, they're not going to show you me saying that. They want to push a fake narrative. So when I say something like, listen, the enthusiasm against Trump is higher. You add that to Biden enthusiasm, and there's probably a diminishing return and overlap in some capacity, and you're going to get more enthusiasm for a Joe Biden vote than a Donald Trump vote because most of it is an anti-Trump vote. Now, this is interesting. Winning despite losing most bellwether counties. There was an analysis that found that Joe Biden, 19 counties in the U.S. with nearly perfect presidential voting records for over 4 decades. Trump won every single one except Clallam County in Washington. That was a huge red flag to a lot of people. It's not really evidence. It's just weird. And Florida and Ohio are also bellwether states. For the past 60 years have predicted the winner. It could just be that the riots and COVID made everybody move around, and that changed the shape of the electoral system. I warned about this too. I said, if you get a bunch of Democrats in New York and they move to suburbs, those suburbs could turn blue if they're at thin margins. However, I think most of the people that were moving were probably Republicans and people of means, not the urban liberals for the most part. But maybe I was wrong, or maybe the first assessment was correct. Not that I was wrong because I didn't really give a strong forecast on what might happen. But maybe it was true. The Democrats moved out of cities because of COVID, and then went to the suburbs, and then turned red suburbs blue. Things like that. They say Biden trailed Clinton, except in a few select cities. I saw this, but some people have pushed back saying it's actually not true. Far be it from me. I'm not an election expert. Biden won despite Democrat losses everywhere is very weird, to be honest. But I see a lot of people on the left that aren't, you know what? They're like, why is it that Trump isn't challenging the House and Senate results, but he's challenging the presidential results? That doesn't make sense. Which one is it, Trump? The conservatives are noticing and claiming that there are massively high percentages of ballots with no down ticket voting, called an undervote, meaning they only voted Biden and nobody else. That is a red flag, not just here, but in many countries. That's why they're not contesting House and Senate races or state legislatures, because the ballots that are in question are the ones where they only voted for Biden and nobody else. That's the point. Biden overcame Trump's commanding primary vote. Also very strange. Forecast models, Joe Biden defied all of the forecasts, all of the statistical models in terms of the primary vote, enthusiasm, all of these numbers. And it's possible for one simple reason. People were voting against Trump. Listen, they say because Trump got so many primary votes relative to Joe Biden, it proves Trump is going to win. But nobody wants Joe Biden. They still don't. Joe Biden did some speech the other day. I didn't even know he did it, nor did I care. And he got like 1,000 concurrent viewers. That's ridiculous. When I did the IRL podcast last week and a half ago, we had 100,000 concurrent viewers. And you mean the president-elect Joe Biden, as the media so claims, with 80 million votes, could not get people to watch his stream? Sorry, man. That's weird. So listen, I think there's a lot of weird stuff going on. I'm not convinced these lawsuits are going to fly. Maybe that's the point. I'm not going to pretend they're playing 4D chess either. Sometimes spelling errors are spelling errors, and sometimes people do bad jobs. I have no idea what's to come, but my normalcy bias says expect President Joe Biden because the machine is getting back on track. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.